staying home. New developments in the fight against coronavirus, including what California's governor is asking the state's 40 million residents to do. Off the trail, how the pandemic is affecting the race to the White House. COVID-19 and children, the best ways to deal with youngsters during the deadly outbreak. And your father is waiting. Pope Francis has advice for those who are unable to go to confession. On EWTN News Nightly for Friday, March 20th, 2020. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Tracy Sable. The coronavirus has now claimed more than 10,000 lives worldwide, including in hard-hit Italy, where 627 new deaths were reported just today. In the U.S., the virus continues to spread, forcing the federal and state governments to make tough choices. California and New York State ordered nearly all residents to stay in their homes. Meanwhile, President Trump invoked the Defense Production Act today to get medical supplies to those on the front lines. And we have team coverage tonight. Correspondent Eric Rosales is on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers are considering a third economic stimulus bill in response to the coronavirus. But we start now with correspondent Owen Jensen at the White House, where administration officials announced breaks for taxpayers and college students, among other initiatives.
Tracy, and what's been a week of whirlwind announcements, today was no exception. President Trump returns to the White House briefing room today to announce new initiatives and encourage the public.
In times of struggle, we see the true greatness of the American character, and we are seeing that. A lot of people are talking about it.
The president praising people of faith and others who are rising to the challenge.
Doctors and nurses are working nonstop to heal the sick. Citizens and churches are delivering meals to the needy. Truckers are making the long haul to keep shelves stocked.
And today, more federal help. The president says the Department of Education will not enforce standardized testing requirements and will temporarily waive interest on federal student loans for at least the next 60 days.
That's a big thing. That's going to make a lot of students very happy.
For taxpayers, some breathing room. The normal April 15th tax filing deadline now extended to July 15th. Although the Treasury Secretary tweets, "I encourage all taxpayers who may have tax refunds to file now to get your money." Outside the White House today, the head of Homeland Security says Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. are limiting non-essential travel across borders.
We want to make sure that cargo continues, trade continues, healthcare workers continue to be able to traverse that border, but tourism, some recreational activities, and other things need to stop during this crisis.
Crisis coordination has shifted to the Federal Emergency Management Agency. The president traveled to FEMA headquarters yesterday to hold a video conference with the nation's governors who are worried about declining revenues, medical capacities being overwhelmed, and even finding child care for first responders on the front lines.
It's great having FEMA involved. We've had tremendous success working together, and we appreciate all of the people here.
The new challenge for FEMA and the rest of America, how to handle a global pandemic. The mayor of LA saying every life is precious.
We are all about to be overwhelmed at our hospitals, but things we can do right now allow us all to be first responders and potentially take this fate of this virus in a different direction.
The country has really stepped up like I don't think we've seen it in many probably decades. It's incredible the way they've stepped up. So we hope we can get rid of this thing quickly.
And tonight, two states with huge populations, New York and California, residents there essentially confined to their homes. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell unveiled the GOP's plan for aid, including $1,200 going directly to many taxpayers. The Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act, also known as CARES, set up talks with congressional Democrats. Correspondent Eric Rosales reports now from Capitol Hill. Eric.
Well, Tracy, we're happy to report that progress is being made. A meeting took place early this morning with the top Democrats and top Republicans, and they met with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. They're trying to iron out the third economic stimulus package. They know that urgency is at the utmost top priority. They need to get something on the president's desk by next week.
This is a crisis in our country.
The race is on to get a third economic stimulus bill to the Senate floor. How soon can we see something passed?
Well, our goal is to finish our negotiations between Republicans and Democrats by midnight tonight that would permit Senator McConnell to put a bill on the floor tomorrow, and we could vote by Monday.
We're going to starve it, we're going to bomb it, and we're going to kill it, the virus.
Republican Lindsey Graham from South Carolina says starve it by separation and the public continuing to social distance themselves. Bomb it with drug therapies that are coming online, making the virus not so lethal and eventually killing it.
And until then, we're just going to have to love each other, pray, and practice good hygiene and social distancing.
Top Democrats criticized the first reading of the bill. Senator Chuck Schumer and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi put out this joint statement, quote, "We are beginning to review Senator McConnell's proposal, and on first reading, it is not at all pro-worker, but instead puts corporations way ahead of workers." Republicans fired back.
If you're giving somebody $1,200 who's lower income, or a family $2,400 and $500 for your kids, you're helping lower income families. And when I say lower income, I mean up to $99,000.
I would say we are very, very focused on the American workers, and this has been really important for Iowans to understand that we are getting relief to them as soon as possible. It's the human side of this pandemic.
Another developing story here on Capitol Hill. 6 U.S. senators on both sides of the aisle are under fire after revelations that they ended up selling stock after a closed-door briefing took place about the coronavirus earlier this year. Senator Richard Burr is on the top of that list. He has now called for an ethics committee to look into the sale of his stock. Tracy?
All right. Thank you, Eric. Correspondent Eric Rosales reporting now from Capitol Hill. Thanks again, Eric. Well, the race for the White House is going digital, and the campaigns are canceling in-person fundraisers. Both the top Democrats, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, as well as President Donald Trump, are canceling those huge campaign rallies. Instead, we can expect more televised town halls, virtual fundraisers, and speeches that are live streamed. The president of Mexico is refusing to order quarantines and says a shutdown would only hurt poor people in Mexico.
Detente, enemigo, que el corazón de Jesús está conmigo.
President Andrés Manuel López Obrador read from an amulet that he keeps in his wallet when asked how he would protect the people of Mexico. He continues to hold rallies like this one at St. Jude Thaddeus Church in Mexico City yesterday. Schools are closed. However, buying and selling continues at street markets. Mexico currently has 1 death from COVID-19. Colombia's cardinal prayed for people sick with the coronavirus and urged Catholics to follow advice on avoiding contact. Cardinal Ruben Salazar celebrated Mass at a church on Monserrate Mountain in Bogota. Nobody shook hands and communion was taken by hand. Colombia has just over 100 cases of COVID-19. In Bangladesh, Friday prayers for Muslims are continuing despite the pandemic. Hundreds of Muslims gathered outside the National Mosque today. The government in Bangladesh warned people to avoid mass gatherings. Schools and universities are shut down, but mosques, temples, and churches are staying open. Pope Francis has suspended all non-urgent trials in the Vatican City State's judicial system. The hearings will resume sometime after April 3rd. Any trials held before then are likely to be closed-door proceedings in order to try and limit the spread of the coronavirus. Italy's government has suspended non-urgent criminal and civil hearings until April 22nd. Well, the Vatican grants an indulgence to coronavirus patients and those who care and pray for them. Pope Francis prayed for Italy yesterday, asking all faithful to pray as the country grapples with an ongoing surge in positive cases. Hospitals struggle to cope with a high influx of patients pouring into emergency rooms. The intensive care unit is at capacity and doctors are stretched. Another day of worldwide prayer and solidarity for all those affected by the pandemic will take place on Sunday. Sister Jolanta Kafka, president of the International Union of Superiors General, also known as UISG, joins us now from Rome. Sister, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for making it possible, this encounter.
Your organization initiated this day of prayer. What is the UISG and how was the prayer initiative born?
So UISG is a platform, is the organization that unites the leaders of the female religious congregations, superiors general, we call it, And so about 1,800 leaders of the congregations are joining it. And it is a platform of sharing experiences, formation, mutual support in the walking as a religious all over the world. So in this very moment, the first reaction spontaneously was, we need to pray. We want to make an appeal to all religious all over the world so we can feel the communion, and in communion, together with other initiatives, we would like to express our solidarity, our sense of faith, and our voice in prayer to God.
Sister, what role do women religious play in handling a crisis situation?
I think that as usual, we are working mostly in the grassroots of the people, of the church, of the humanity. So usually the first role will be there, close to the people who are in need, close to the communities, close to the associations, close to the centers of health or educational centers, to stand before those who are most in need, but just helping one another.
We talked about praying in extreme circumstances like we're experiencing right now. Some people might find it difficult to pray. Do you have advice for someone who may be feeling like this?
I don't know if it can be considered as an advice. We can pray with psalms, because the psalms are collecting a lot of situations in which the people of God prayed and raised their voices in different feelings. So we can pray also with psalms, or maybe we can just invoke God, have mercy on us, or Lord, have compassion on your people. You know, maybe in every country, in every culture, we find different ways of expressing our heart. Some are more vivid, some are more calm and silent. So let us also help one another to respect the way of prayer in these difficult moments. What of course is for me is a key is to contemplate Jesus in his sufferance and how he dealt with those who are suffering. This can be a way of prayer, useful for this time, I think.
Well, Sister, thank you so much for that. Sister Jolanta Kafka, President of the International Union of Superiors General, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Pope Francis is canceling feet washing during Holy Week because of the coronavirus pandemic. The Holy Father typically washes the feet of 12 people on Holy Thursday, but this year's Easter celebrations will be different. This summer's Olympics in Japan are still going forward despite worries over the coronavirus. The Olympic flame landed in Tokyo, but the reception was scaled down to only a few people. Former gold medal winners lit the torch as Tokyo Olympics President Yoshiro Mori looked on. The Olympics are supposed to kick off on July 24th, but many are calling for the games to be canceled or postponed. Coming up, advice on how to talk to children about the coronavirus pandemic, and an update on the final abortion clinic in the state of Missouri. Pope Francis has advice for the faithful who cannot go to confession because of the coronavirus pandemic.
Torna dal tuo padre. Ti aspetta.
At his daily mass at the Vatican, the Holy Father encouraged the faithful to talk to the Lord. He said, we should tell him the truth and ask for forgiveness because God has the ability to change and transform our lives. He is waiting for us to ask for help. The Holy Father added we should get to confession with a priest as soon as we are able. A new study published online in the journal Pediatrics finds while most children develop mild or moderate symptoms from the coronavirus, a small percentage, especially babies and preschoolers, can become seriously ill. In the largest study that is to date, researchers in China analyzed more than 2,000 cases of children under 18 reported to the Chinese Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. About 94% of the children were either asymptomatic or had mild or moderate cases, but just under 6% of the children had critical or severe cases. Of the 125 children in the China study who became severely or critically ill, 76 of them were age 5 or younger. 40 were infants under the age of 1. Joining me now by Skype to talk about the coronavirus and its effects on children is Dr. Kathleen Berchelmann. She is a pediatrician and the founder of MyCatholicDoctor. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So tell me, what are your thoughts on this study coming out of China?
Well, it's very concerning. We know that children, for the most part, do better than adults with coronavirus, but especially the youngest, especially the infants who have immature immune systems, still can become critically ill.
According to that study, the majority of the children were either asymptomatic or had mild symptoms. Why do you think that is?
Well, the older children especially have healthy lungs and healthy immune systems, and so they just aren't hit as badly.
Just another question. Does it add to the concern that young people are maybe inadvertently spreading this COVID-19 virus?
Yes, for sure. I mean, there's no doubt that young people are like the typhoid Marys of the COVID-19 epidemic, right? I mean, who can teach a child to not touch their nose, not pick their nose, not touch their face? It's really hard. So there's no doubt that children are big transmitters of this and other viruses. And we've shown that before for things like the flu.
Yeah, and the research also showed that, on the other hand, children under the age of 5, they actually seem to be more at risk for the virus. Any idea why that may be?
I think it's the same problem, that they're going to touch everything and they're not good hand washers and they're going to put everything in their mouth, etc. And so they're going to get it. But actually, that's the design. That's part of God's design, that young children get many viruses while they're healthy and build immunity to it. But this one's scarier.
Yeah. What do you advise parents to do at this time in order to keep their children and others safe?
Well, I do support the school closing choices. I know it's real hard. And so a big thumbs up to parents out there that are homeschooling their kids and trying, especially those trying to homeschool and work and telecommute at the same time. This is really a time of challenge for parents. And, preventing the spread of illness is fundamental to supporting a culture of life. And so it's just a time really for all of us to grow in virtue. It takes virtue and grace to keep your hands away from your face, to wash your hands, and to teach a 3-year-old not to pick their nose.
Yeah, it's hard. It's definitely hard. There are a lot of unknowns right now, spurring a lot of anxiety for a lot of us, especially parents. As a doctor and mom of 7, do you have any advice on how to cope with stress at this time for parents and even for young people?
I think exercise is key. I mean, from a medical perspective, we know that, and that it's a really great treatment for depression and anxiety and stress is exercise. So when you're homeschooling these kids, start every day with 100 jumping jacks. Try to get outside for a walk if you can, and pray together as a family, especially the rosary.
Yeah, that is such great advice. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you checking in with us and giving us your insight. Dr. Kathleen Berchelmann, thanks again.
Thank you.
Well, a decision is expected soon on the fate of the final abortion clinic in Missouri. The Guardian newspaper reports people involved in the case believe a ruling is imminent. Last year, state officials refused to renew the license of the clinic, citing its failure to meet basic patient care standards. A judge in Missouri granted a temporary stay of that decision. Up next, how a Catholic organization is helping the disadvantaged during the coronavirus pandemic. Catholic Relief Services is warning that the coronavirus pandemic could potentially cause significant disruptions to its operations and strain many health systems in the countries it serves. Sean Callahan, President and CEO of Catholic Relief Services, joins me now by Skype from Baltimore. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be with you.
So how is the spread of the coronavirus, how is it impacting your programs around the world?
Well, like in many areas, it's impacting us in the restriction to travel. Many of our staff members are now in the countries they're going to be in for the duration of this virus. And so movement is very much impeded by the virus in various areas, by either local governments or by the disease itself.
Have you had to suspend any activities because of it?
We have had to suspend in certain countries. In a couple of countries, they've had lockdown to try to prevent the spread of the virus. And so in those countries, we've been impeded from continuing on. But in other areas, we've actually ramped up initiatives so that we can get out to the people that we need to serve.
Sean, what about balancing the work that you do, with all these safety protocols that are now in place? Is it difficult?
It is very difficult. I think there's two key things for us. One is keeping our staff safe and ensuring that we're not contributing to the spread of the virus. At the same time, our staff are very committed to reaching out to the local communities, to our local partners and those most affected, and trying to balance that, keeping your own staff safe while trying to reach out to people who are very much in need and try to prevent them from suffering from the same virus.
Sean, you just mentioned preventing the spread of the virus. How are you doing that within your organization?
Well, we've done certain things that we've done restrictions. We're all around the world right now trying to work mobily, so virtually, so that we don't bring people together too much. We've restricted our training so that our trainings and capacity strengthening with local partners is done more remotely and that we have that physical distance so that we prevent the spread. In addition to that, we're providing personal materials for people for hygiene, water, access, and cleanliness, so they don't spread the virus themselves.
And Sean, I know this isn't the first health crisis that your organization has seen. I know you were on the ground in West Africa during the 2014 Ebola crisis. What lessons did you all learn from that experience, and are you applying that now to this pandemic?
We certainly are. I think there's a couple things that we learned from that, and one is health messages, getting information out there, and that's why I appreciate you calling this issue out, because key communication is very important for the people we serve, as well as hygiene practices. So in the Ebola, we measured temperature, we made people wash their hands, and we had very strict protocols. I'd say the most important thing, though, that we learned is that people can change their behavior. And once they're aware and we include the community in part of the response, the community does respond. And we were able in Liberia, in Guinea, and Sierra Leone to stop Ebola in its tracks, and we hope that we'll be able to do that with COVID-19 as well.
Sean, before I let you go, tell me, if viewers would like to help out, how can they do that?
We'd love them to help out, and they can reach us at www.crs.org, and they can see what we're doing with COVID-19. They can read our FAQs, our frequently asked questions. Also, very important, I think, is that solidarity at this time where we're all separate is trying to be together. And so try to adhere to our Catholic principles of solidarity and the common good. We all have to work together for the common good. And so their wishes, their prayers, and their thoughts are very important at this time as well.
All right. Thank you, Sean, for that. Sean Callahan, President and CEO of Catholic Relief Services. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And just a reminder, with public masses being canceled, you can always watch our daily masses right here on EWTN. Masses broadcast each day at 8 a.m., noon, and 7 p.m. Eastern. EWTN is also airing the Pope's daily Mass, as well as the novena from Our Lady of Lourdes. So spread the word to your family and friends. For more airing times, visit our website, EWTN.com. And we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tracy Sable. We leave you tonight with a look at the famous cherry blossoms in our nation's capital. Like many events, the National Cherry Blossom Festival has been canceled, but the trees, which were a gift from Japan back in 1912, are in near full peak, and they look beautiful. We wish you all a wonderful weekend. Good night, and God bless.